much, obviously there's been a change in the technology space where you mentioned like some of this can be done on the cloud, some of it can be done on your own machine, some of it can be done in some other tools that we're going to talk about in a bit. But where do you think is if a client is trying to start something like this, and obviously we work with different clients where their analytics or this type of division varies, right? You have folks who are very much mature on that. You have folks who this department does not exist, right? But still, end of the day, they're both are doing amazing things. But let's say for ones who don't have this in place today, like this is like a new thing they're bringing in. What would be the main things they need to worry about? Is it, for example, the data itself? Is it what to do with it? Is it the buy-in? Because like you mentioned the workshopping, and we've been through this a few times, and I've seen exactly the pain points. And let's talk through those so that people know what to expect.
Yeah, so 2 of those 3 really stood out to me. It was the data itself and then the buy-in. So the data has to be clean and you have to have it going back a reasonable period of time. And that's about it, but that's harder than it sounds because it has to be stitched together at the customer
Extremely
level,
hard.
right? So if you have third-party data, you have first-party data, you have website data, you have CRM data, all of that has to be stitched together at the individual level. We have to have an identifier for a specific individual. That can be done. There are technologies in place to do that. But in a lot of cases, less mature organizations aren't quite there with their data, right? So that's step 1, and that has to be done. Having said that, you can do this kind of approach on just one data set. Like if you just have, say, Adobe Analytics data, technically you can do this and you'll get audience segments, but you just won't have that kind of 360-degree, that really, really broad view of your customers that you get when you start mixing different data sources together, right?
So is it fair to say the more, so if we're looking at, there's a dimension of how far back we can get data, but there's also how many of these data sources we can get. Is the idea that the deeper go more back and also more data sources that would be better for the analysis?
Yes, more data is better, with the slight caveat, and we discussed this just a little bit, that if you start looking back too far, the data might be irrelevant, right? It just depends on your customer base and your sales segment. So going broader is always a good thing. We can always just throw out, dimensions that don't make sense. Going farther back is a mixed blessing in some cases.
Okay.
I do want to talk about buy-in for just a second, because I think that was a really great point to raise. This process feels a little, it's unusual to people. Even some organizations that have mature machine learning capabilities in place, in most use cases, I would say that those are things like, propensity models, churn models, that just, you put the data in the system gives you answers, right? What we're doing here is fundamentally different, because the system doesn't really give us answers. It just slices the data in a mathematically rigorous way. So it's not the way that people are used to dealing with ML or AI systems, where it just handles its job and people get the email that they want, and that's the end of the story. There's a lot of interaction here with the code itself, with the outputs. On our side, we deal with the code, but the outputs are.
But there's a human aspect to this. It's not only.
Yeah, it's a man and machine thing. I mean, it could be like dramatized into a sci-fi, the way that we have to interact with the data.
No, I like it. I like it. Job security is always good. Yeah.
So that, from a buy-in perspective, that's a little bit hard to deal with, just because it's new to everyone, and it's a little bit uncomfortable. It's not the way people have thought about audiences in the past, generally speaking. And so getting people all on the same page and getting everybody to adopt the system is occasionally a challenge, but I don't think we've had a case yet where that didn't end up going well in the end. I think everybody has kind of gotten it by the end of the process and kind of sees why things work the way they work, right?